Hey guys, David here and welcome to the Fit Pro Daily. This week is all about trying to get started in the fitness industry by either finding a potential workplace or finding your first clients. Yesterday we had Gemma on as a guest interview to share her steps in how she got started to be an international fitness coach and running a massive successful international personal training qualification company. So if you're going to go back, check that interview out. It was really good because she was so passionate and she explained everything really well. So make sure you do go back and check that video out. Today though, I want to give you tips as an employer to what we would be looking for a prospect who is coming in to ask us for a job or coming in for an interview. But before we dive into that, if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do click that big red button below to subscribe. That way you'll never miss any future episodes. Okay, so let's dive in. The first thing I'm going to say, and this is when you're handing your CV in, whether it's online or whether it's face-to-face, is to make sure your CV is actually up to date. There's nothing worse for an employer is to get a CV and you're seeing different dates and you're not finding out what their previous employment actually was. We want, as employees, we want to know what your last workplaces were, what your experiences are, and we don't want to have to be going through 5 or 6 different pages of every single job that you've done. Try to keep as up to date as possible, no more than 2 pages long, just being concise and straight to the point. And with this too, when you hand in your covering letter, please don't have it as a generic cover letter for every other job that you've applied for. There's nothing worse than getting a covering letter that isn't really talking about the job that you're applying for. Specifically, if you're coming in for a personal training job and you've been handing these out to boot camp companies. I'm reading this as a personal training studio, looking for a personal trainer to come in, but the covering letter is talking about all your boot camp experience and stuff like that. That is not telling us that you are the right candidate for this job. So CV up to date, no more than 2 pages long, and covering letter to talk about the exact position that you're covering for, and potentially asking any questions or answering any questions that we've talked about in the actual job description. Okay, step number 2, and obviously just before your interview date, I would just confirm with them, maybe the day before or the morning of, just to remind them that you're still coming in, and that kind of shows as well that you're eager to come in for this interview. But for the interview itself, I would definitely say come in smart, casual clothing, but with the opportunity that you might have to demonstrate or take a session or just have to step out of the interview and they might have to put you on your toes to see what you're like. So wear something that is going to look smart, presentable, but also allow you to be able to do anything that crops up in the interview. Because remember, this is a physical job. It's a personal training job or a boot camp job or whatever you're applying for. You are going to have to demonstrate in sessions, and they might just get you to do this on the spot in the interview. So make sure you're dressing appropriately, not going over the top and not being too casual that you're almost right in the middle to be casual yet professional at the same time. Okay, tip number 3. You've turned up to the interview, they're asking you a couple of questions. The last thing we want to hear is different things that you're talking about that has nothing to do with the actual business you're working for. So take DK9 for example. We have an over 30s only personal training studio. If somebody comes in to us and asks us why we don't do under 30s or we should do under 30s because that's a better target market to work in, it's clearly shown that they haven't done the research into why we are doing this. Also, if you can know who you're coming to talk to, so do the research, go on the website, look at their social media posts, look at what they've been up to recently. You will have an up-to-date information on what this business is. That's going to definitely win you bonus points when it comes to you knowing about the business, because that shows us that you care about this job role that you're coming in for. Okay, tip number 4, and this is a really key one, okay? Because when we put out a job description, we're saying we need people to hit certain levels or certain standard or be able to do certain things. What I would do from that description is I would get all those questions or get all those bullet points off, write paragraphs for each of those, and then when you have an opportunity during your interview, you bring up those things. So you might be saying to them, actually, in your description, you were talking about you'd have a personal trainer who's had a range of experience of working with 30-year-olds and 57-year-olds. You would come in and you would explain that process. So that would show us again that you've taken the time and effort to read the job description in depth, and you're answering those questions of the type of things that we're looking for from an employee. So if you're going in and you're not sure what to talk about, go onto the job description page, look at all the key points that we're talking about, and just answer those questions in paragraphs. So when you're ready and you're being asked this type of stuff, you know exactly what to say because you've got the answers prepared. Okay, tip number 5, and this is just going a little bit further, showing that you're proper serious about this job. If somebody came into us, maybe their actual interview didn't go as great, maybe they weren't the best person to talk about the stuff that they can do. But if this person said to us right in the middle of the interview or right towards the end in the interview that they're happy to stay on really quickly now, show us what they can do, that's massively boosted their chances of getting their job. Because at the end of the day, we're having that chat with them, we're then discussing what we thought of what they're telling us. If this person's then turn around to us and say, you know what, actually I can come back tomorrow, or I can stay now, I can do a little bit of something, show you what I can do, maybe take this next session, that's instantly, again, won some bonus points because they're going out of their way to show us that they want this job, they're happy to do that extra bit of work, and it's definitely going to win us over when it comes to deciding who's going to get the job. So those were 5 tips I would give anybody out there looking for a job, specifically if you're coming to getting employment from a type of business that we have set up. If you can follow those 5 tips, then your interview is definitely going to go much, much better because it's showing people like myself or whoever's interviewing you that you actually really do care about the position. You've took the time and effort to really do your research and you're really keen to want to get started. If you've enjoyed this video or you want to go and check out Gemma's video from yesterday, make sure you do click on one of these links just here. And as usual, if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do click that big red button below to subscribe. And I'll speak to you all tomorrow. Cheers.